Welcome back here on EA Sports. Along with Ray Ferraro, I'm James Cebulski. Looking forward to this one. Ray, how special is it to don the colors of your country?
I got to do it 4 times, James. Some of the most proud moments of my career.
Both teams seem ready, and they're about to drop the puck on this opening faceoff. There's been a healthy buzz for this one. Now it's time to see if it lives up to the hype. And now it's over to Bergeron. Team Canada's got the puck against the boards. And he makes the save.
I think through traffic like that, you're just hoping the thing hits you.
Moves it quickly. Stopped by the goaltender.
I like how he was able to follow the puck. Good save in close.
Canada's on the attack. Sends the pass down low. Quick feed to Bergeron. Now a quick pass to Crosby. Centered out in front. Scores! Brad Marchand!
Man, he laid a beauty of a pass across there. Enough air to clear the sticks, and it lands perfectly on the shooter's stick.
Canada's got a quick goal here early in this first period, and with it, a different energy in this crowd.
Everybody gets ramped up a little bit. You score early, you hope you can. Now you have, you go get another.
Moves it quickly over to Crosby. Team Finland's got the puck in their own end. Lindell's got it into offensive territory. Finland's got the puck along the boards. Denies them in front.
I'd like to look at that one more time. Sometimes you think you've got room, but the ice closes off. That's a big hit there. And he's got to get up slowly.
Lots of hockey left to be played in this period. We got a 1-0 game to this point. That's a smart read with the 2 centermen tied up. Price covers it up for a whistle. Is there a strategy here?
Sometimes, or he just reads the play in front of him and says, now I got to jump on this. We're going to start to run around.
McDavid's won it in their own end. Canada's got it into the offensive zone. Great use of the body to knock him off the puck. Dishes it to Kotkaniemi. It's a 2-on-1. Right on the doorstep. Oh, and he can thank his stick for that one. Inching closer to the midway mark of the period. Canada's up 1-0. McDavid's won it off the faceoff. Grabbed along the boards by Doughty. Canada's got the puck in the defensive end. And now he moves it quickly to Tavares. Knocked off the puck. Team Finland's gained possession along the boards. Sends it in deep. Team Canada's got control of the puck. Picked up along the wall by Tavares. Canada's got a hold of the puck. Team Canada's moving it up the ice. Slides the puck to Doughty. Moves it to Giroux. Canada's got the puck along the wall. And tries to make a diagonal pass to Burns. Here's a pass down low. Right in the slot. Long jam in front. That's broken up. He was locked in there. Quick pass to Granlund. Pokes it away in his own end. Puck battle along the boards. Team Finland's going to play it from the corner. And he was right there. They can't connect. Sends it quickly to McKinnon. Team Canada's playing it through center. Knocked away. Team Finland's got the puck along the wall. Here they come inside the neutral zone. Makes a move and the puck hops away from him.
There are times you try to do too much. He's got good hands, but maybe a more simple play's the right one there.
Scrum ensues along the boards. Finland's got the puck here in the open ice. They've got the defense outnumbered. Canada's got the puck. Exploring options here inside the defensive zone. And it's a quick pass to Marchand. And now it's to Crosby. And a stick in the lane ends that threat. From point blank, gives some in front.
Yeah, he got out tight to him, James. There's nowhere for that puck to go. Well, what a quick reflex stop that is. Great scoring chance.
Here in the late going of the frame, 1-0 the score. They take possession as he locks him up off the faceoff. Dishes it to Kotkaniemi. On the attack along the boards. Here's a short pass to Honka. Tees him up. Too much congestion in front. Quick feed to Laine. Takes a hit. He goes down to the ice and coughs up the puck. Scores!
They've been clawing away at this lead, James, trying to get this game back even. And there's the goal that does it. Stick side's always a good place to shoot. If the goalie's not down in the butterfly to smother that off, it's going to beat the goalie because he doesn't have much to stop it with.
The centermen glide into position. Canada's got a hold of the puck off the draw. Moves it quickly over to Hall. Can't hang on after that hit. Takes the pass and works the cycle down low. Moves the puck more to the middle. Moves it to Hall. Well, you can't do that to the Stars.
Yeah, even if you think it's a clean hit, and I do, it doesn't matter. Somebody's coming after you.
He goes.
That's the end of that spirited bout. That's one way to put a cap on the emotion that's starting to run in this game. You kick the guys out that fight. That'll help keep a lid on things.
Everybody on their feet in the arena, but they'll say goodnight after that exchange. Takes possession off the draw. Move to the middle. Snaps one here in the slot. Big time save with the blocker. Scrum along the boards. And it's kicked away. Works it across to Komarov. Through the neutral zone, moving the puck along the side. Puts it in deep. Here he is in front. Oh, a clutch save. And there's the horn concluding period number 1 as both teams get on the board.
Present your ticket stub from tonight's game and receive up to 10% off of your meal.
A chance for both teams to refuel. They are back on the ice, and period number 2 is about set to go. Period number 2 now underway. Let's see what this one has in store for us. Ray, we've already got 20 minutes under our belt here. What are your thoughts of this one so far?
Team Finland's got to get on their horse a little bit here, James. They really haven't generated much in the way of shots on goal yet.
He almost lost it for a second there, but regains control of the puck. Barkov's got it across the line. And he loses possession of the puck after trying to make one too many moves.
There are times you try to do too much. He's got good hands, but maybe a more simple play's the right one there.
Stop that one. Puck picked up by Weber, and he slides it quickly to Marchand. Moves the puck. Can't keep a hold of it after that hit. Scooped up along the wall by Vatanen. Quick pass to McDavid. Team Finland's looking to break out of their own end. Takes the feed. Looks like we got a delayed tripping penalty coming up here. There's the stoppage of play. Let's see what the officials say. Kapanen's called for tripping. He's off to the box.
Like every player in the history of the game, he doesn't like the call, but he's going to have to go serve his minor penalty.
Power play unit comes out for the face-off.
Their first power play of the night will commence with the face-off. Win the draw, you've got puck control in the offensive zone.
Can't get it to go. Team Finland's got the puck shorthanded. Good clearing attempt to breathe. Looking to break out here on the power play. That's moved up ahead.
What a one-pass breakout that is.
Fires one on goal, and he comes up with it.
I wanted another look at this one. I'm sure you guys were all impressed as I was. What a save by the goalie.
We haven't even hit the midway mark of the period. It's all tied up. Team Finland's got possession here in their own end. Canada's got a hold of it against the wall. Gets a glove on it to make the save. Puck possession so critical. Another face-off coming up here. Off the draw, and a nice job locking up his opponent. Trying to get it out of danger, and they get it out of the zone. And where are they headed to, Ray?
Time for a change. Everyone needs a little break here. They look a little tired. They get it out of the zone, and they can get some fresh troops on the ice.
They get it out of the defensive end. Team Canada's got a hold of it along the wall. Over the line they come. Both teams are now back to even strength as the power play has expired.
Now the pressure ramped up on the penalty kill there as they go into that last power play tied. They do a really nice job. They keep the game knotted as the...
Scores! The go-ahead goal!
This game has been tight. Now somebody's got a leg up. Man, look at that crowd of people in front of the net. That's like going to the bus station trying to get onto the bus. Everybody's fighting for position, and when the goalie finds the puck, it's just on its way past him.
Team Canada's defense translates into some offense, and they got the lead.
Well, when the game's tied, you can't start taking a bunch of unnecessary chances. They've got the lead now, and we'll see if they can extend it before the break.
And down he goes as the puck goes free. Offside is the call, but we'll have a face-off just outside the offensive zone.
Stamkos. Time of the goal, 7 minutes, 49 seconds.
Canada's done a nice job of generating pucks on net, and as a result, they lead here in the second. Finland's won the draw. Looking to make something happen in the offensive zone. Puck scooped up by Barkov. He got all of that hit on the play. Big time hit. And he takes a shot. Blocked in front. Denies him in close. Coughs up possession of the puck. Strong defensive effort. From the point, looks to make something happen. Team Finland's ready to go on the attack. Lays the body. Taken along the wall by Doughty. Takes the puck and will retreat back to his own end. And a nice poke check inside the neutral zone. Oh, making his presence felt with the hit. And he slides it quickly to Sagan. Across the line. Picked up along the boards by McDavid. No one home on that play. They go on the attack through center. Big play inside the defensive zone. Big time hit against the boards. Tell me this, what would you rather take? Against the wall or against the open ice?
Oh no, I want it up against the wall, but you got to get close. If you're a foot or two away, you bounce like a basketball.
Big collision. Canada's got it behind the net. Stopped by the goaltender. Again, the denial by the goaltender.
Quick reflexes. You make one, you make two stops before the puck is cleared away.
Sends a pass over. Finland's got it along the wall. Puck grabbed by Pietrangelo. Receives the pass. Handles the puck at the point. Great save!
Rask's able to recover, and he makes an unbelievable save here. That's a good chance.
Late goings of this period. Canada's got a slim lead. They lead it 2-1. Team Canada's won the draw. Here's a short pass to Crosby, and he denied that opportunity. Finland's looking to break out. Tara Biden's got it along the boards. Grabbed along the boards by Honka. tries to get the puck to Heiskanen and couldn't find the intended receiver on that one. And now it's grabbed by Donskoy. Some great thievery in the open ice. Quick feed to Crosby. Move to the middle and makes the save.
Good save. Positional save through traffic.
Great hand-eye on the tip. It's been a tightly contested affair this far as the period comes to an end.
Hey fans, don't forget our 50-50 draws coming up in the middle of the third period. Get your tickets now. That pot continues to grow.
Don't go anywhere. The third period is just moments away. The official's made his way to center, and this third period is about to go. Here we go. Put up or shut up for both teams here in this third period. We are underway. Ray Ferraro is between the benches at ice level. Ray, we've got 40 minutes played so far. How have you viewed things?
Team Finland's been chasing this game and chasing the puck much of the first two periods. If they're going to get back in it, they've got to possess the puck a lot more.
Quick shot, and he gets a paddle on that one.
Now, by being in the right position, James, he gets so tight to the shooter, there's nowhere for the puck to go.
From off the boards, he sends it into the open ice. Passes it over to Rantanen. Into the attacking area from the left side. And that one's broken up. Canada's got it in their own zone. Carries it in. Hangs onto the puck. A chance! Comes up with the stop. Moves it quickly over to Granlund. Good check, frees the puck up. Sends it over to Keith. And now he angles it across to Marchand. Team Canada's got it against the boards. And the puck departs the zone. From the right wing, he moves it to the middle. Moves it to Mata. And that shot dies in traffic. Wow! I don't think he saw that one.
I hope he didn't, because if he did, he should have gone somewhere else.
Passes the puck over to Marchand. Finland's gained possession along the boards. Now a quick pass to Laine. Good battle along the boards for the puck. Canada's got control of it now from their own end. Sends the pass over. Here they come. And now he tries to get it across to McDavid. Drills them. What a steal in his own end. Quick pass to Burns. And now he moves it to McDavid. Takes the feed at center and moves forward. Strong defensive effort. Makes the save. And now it's over to Hintz. Finland's moving it along the wing. Slides the puck over. Filppula's got it on the offensive end. Here's a short pass to Hintz. Gets the puck over to Filppula. Oh, he'll feel that one. Takes the pass. Big save.
No room for the shooter. The goaltender snuffed it out. Rask's hands are quick. He uses his stick to make this save on the scoring chance.
More than half the frame has been played here. Team Canada's up 2-1, and the crowd has been enjoying this one. Canada's won the face-off deep in their own end. Sends it over to Letang. Takes the feed. Loses possession after he takes a little hit. Rocks him on the play. Team Finland's got the puck along the boards. They've got numbers. And that one's broken up by a great defensive play. Now he takes it over the line. Finland's got the puck behind the net. Picked up along the wall by Honka. Taken by Komarov. And tries to make a diagonal pass to Donskoy. Not able to connect. They've got numbers. Quick snap. He scores! And how about that to even things up here late in the game?
Well, they just stayed at it, James. I don't know if there's anything particularly beautiful about the play, but it doesn't even matter. You keep plugging away and look for the tying goal.
Team Finland's answered back here late in the third. Huge third period goal to tie things up.
They've really worked hard and deserved this spot in the game. Now we'll see at even, do coaches really shorten their bench out and start double shifting guys?
Finland's gained possession. Nice pass. And now he angles it across to Granlund. Rantanen's got it along the boards. Moves it around along the half wall. Team Finland's got it near the point. Puts it on net. Oh, and he just puts it wide of the net.
In a tie game, you don't get many chances. That was a chance to break it right there.
Aaron pass and the play's broken up. Weber's got the puck through the neutral zone. Off the left wing and into center. Puck knocked loose after that hit. Battle along the boards. Finland's got it in their own zone. Dumps it in. Canada's got it from behind the net. Slides it over with pace to McDavid. Here's a chance. To his teammate. Puts it into the back of the net for the goal.
Yeah, breaks this tie, James. You know when these teams get locked up tight, sometimes it stays that way a long time. This game was destined to be a tie game, but in the dying seconds, they break that tie and are able to go in front.
Team Canada's been the better team offensively tonight. A lot of scoring chances, and they lead it late in this third period. Canada's won the draw in the neutral zone. Feeds the puck over to McDavid. With possession along the wall. Move to the middle. Deflected away. Nice defensive use of the stick there.
19 minutes, 37 seconds.
Slides the pass over to Laine. Rask's made his way quickly to the bench, and the extra attacker is now out on the ice. And there's the final horn, putting a bow on this one here this evening.
They peppered the other goaltender, had more shots on goal, and in the end, even in a close game, that becomes part of the difference.
Well, at some point in time, you take enough opportunities, you're bound to convert in theory, right?
Well, that's the goal logic anyway. Eventually,